Hello, Commanders, and welcome to the RNGendgame, a podcast about the game Marvel Strike Force. Your hosts are Frid and Creative. We're leaders in an alliance from a large cluster, and would like to share our insights with you to hopefully improve your gameplay and overall experience, and give you a little entertainment.
All right, Creative, here we are another week, and we're going to start with some of the listener feedback. From Reddit, we'd have Bobby, Show Me the Money. He just says, thanks, guys. Enjoyable podcast. So thank you for that. From the Apple Podcast reviews, which are my favorite, it's actually Sarosio, who is a fellow podcaster and somebody that I've known for a while from the Hearthstone scene. He gave us a 5-star review, so thank you very much for that. And it says, amazing content. I am an alliance leader of a casual alliance that pushes U6 and is Gold 2 in war. This podcast gives me great information for me to share with my alliance and help our growth. Thank you, guys. So, Sarosio, appreciate that. And keep those reviews coming because they help us get discovered in Apple Podcasts. Finally, on Podbean, we have a Hero20, and he was talking about the topic of incentivized behavior theory, which the other name that is not as good but is the more popular name is seed theory. And he said, it's not a theory when they have patented their algorithms, LOL. And as you know, and I mentioned how for mobile games, they hire PhDs, right? That works on these games to find those breakpoints on what is the level of pain that I can inflict and frustration so that you spend money. I know this from Candy Crush through Marvel Strike Force, right? The game's like a front, but it's all about getting you to spend. But if you actually went and looked at these, there's some crazy stuff out there with these patents, like on how they change, drop, raise, and all this stuff. It's pretty intense. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can go look. It's all public information, and it's kind of scary what they're trying to do. So that's the listener comments. We'll move on to our gear and leveling focus. So I'll start with what I've been farming, and I'm pretty much all set for Ebony Maw. Level 6 is what I'm looking at, because Crystal's already done and all the others. Karnak was the problem, but I have been doing 4 refreshes on his node for a while now.
Ouch.
And I'm yeah, I know. I'm about 172 of 200. We have the 2x event tonight, so I'm hoping between tonight and the next day I could probably finish him off and be done, and then go back to a more relaxed farming of 1 and see how long it'll take me to get him to 7. Taskmaster is the other one. I'm at 38 of 130, so I made it to 4 stars. I have 5 reds on him, so I'm really, again, spending 600 cores a day, 6 refreshes, to try to get to that 5-star. I believe I'm in good shape. There's quite a bit of time left, so I feel good. Haven't been as lucky as Proxima Midnight. No 24s yet, but just grinding it out to get there. And finally, I added Elsa Bloodstone to my farming just to help with the supernaturals. I'll fly through these gearing things real quick. I got the mercenaries and the supernaturals to a usable level. Colossus and Shuri, I'm going to T14 so that I can start Dark Dimension 3. And we'll talk about it every week for the next 6 months as I try to finish it. And then finally, we always talk about premium orbs, and actually 2 weeks ago, right after the show, I opened a premium and got 15 yo-yo. So I'm at like 30 out of 130. So it doesn't help me, but at least I got her. Nothing after then. What's next for me? I just looked, and I think the Black Order, I'll be able to level to about that 200k level. Tier 10. We'll talk about this in a sec. And then maybe I'll look at some individual characters, Ultimus, Symbiote Spider-Mans, and other stuff to try to level them individually for, DD3 later and other stuff. So that is what I'll be working on next. And finally, I just wanted to add a tip for Arena. What you want to do, because the best defense is to be sitting there around the cutoff, which is 6 p.m. Eastern time, which we talked about last week in the middle of dinner time. You want to be sitting around rank 5, and that's because it gives you the most range of choices, so you can go from 1 through 4, all those opponents. And when you get to the cutoff, sometimes they're already taken, like occupied, so you can't attack them. So it gives you 3 opportunities to find an opponent. And then it also find your best matchup, because sometimes there's bad matchups up there. If you're like, 2 or number 1, there's nothing you can do generally, and then you'll get knocked down. And then if you're 6, that's not as bad, but you won't be able to hit the number 1 guy. So that's the tip for Arena there. Anyway, Creative, how about you? I think you have a big weekend update for us today.
Yeah, so 2 weeks worth of a lot of leveling, and just a real quick thing on the arena. Some people could be rolling their eyes because they're not even close to the top, 5. But the concept is still the same. You want to be, present towards right at the cutoff if you can, and you want to be within range of the spot that you want. You don't want to be at the spot if you're at the top, because you're then the target and you get the rubber banding. So that was I asked Frid to cover that because he's been in the top 5 consistently now for a while. So that was great to hear.
No, good point. I'm sorry. I forget. It's like, oh yeah, you just
just get the number 1. No big deal. Yeah. So so I got to use that tip once, and I got to arena rank 1 one day, and then now I'm like stuck at 13. I've been trying everything under the sun, and nothing is kind of sticking. So that's part of where I'm kind of frustrated at the moment. But in terms of 2 weeks of really good stuff, first and foremost, we always talk about Frid's Captain America being the content creator, Captain America blowing everything away. So I got over my envy of that, and I did purchase her 4 red stars. I got her to tier 13. And
Creative, you mean Captain Marvel, not Captain America.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
America is sad.
No, he's at 5K sitting there in the bottom of the basement. Sorry, yes, Captain Marvel. Thank you for the correction there. Yes, we always talk about your Captain Marvel. So anyway, got her to 4 stars, got her to T13, and then immediately used her to complete Training Day and Medical Supply challenges. So I've completed those at the highest level.
Awesome.
And hopefully my training mat problem starts to subside. It's still very, very low. But the biggest thing for me was doing a massive roster cleanup. Once we started getting to U7 and I was falling behind in Arena, I started picking individual characters to fill those holes really quick. So my teams have been out of balance for Blitz and other things for a while. So I've now done that over the last month and a half, if not 2 months. And I don't know the right term we're going to call it, but I'm calling it the parking level, which is getting them to level 60. Some people do 65. I don't have the training mats. So level 60, tier 10, and the abilities 664. So I've done everybody practically. Toad and Blob got love. The new BH team is a great all-around team, very consistent. I was never really a big fan of Sabretooth and Mystique. Brought Marauders up too, just so they're all in balance, and they stink. So I took Riot Armor Guard out and put him on the Merc team, and the Marauders just can't hang. And so
they're missing something, Creative. What are they missing?
I don't know. Maybe that 5th member for 6 months now. So yeah, hint, hint. Fox next. So yeah, and we asked a lot of our alliance mates. They're struggling too. But if any of our listeners have any suggestions for who to use for that 5th for the Marauders, really would appreciate that. But
I have Crossbones. He's terrible, so I don't know what to do. It's the only one that's like close in power.
Yeah,
but it doesn't do much for them.
Yeah, I don't know. So I love Sinister. I love the concept of the team. It just they fall flat from a defense and offensive standpoint. So anyway. What else? Mercenaries. So I'm using Killmonger and Korath. I couldn't bring myself to farm up Sniper and Bullseye. And Fred, how's that 5 red star Bullseye treating you?
He's not very good. The ult can do a lot of damage, but it never goes because he's dead before you. It's like a turn 3, even with the. Anyway. It takes forever. It hits hard, but he can never get that power off. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. Merc Lieutenant is also very squishy, and he dies quickly, so I need to do something about him.
Okay. And are they winning for you on auto in 8.3?
They're not. They're not. It's pretty sad that I It's just parked in a arena defense. I mean, war defensive room, and that's their purpose right now.
Okay. I'm getting them to win playing. I don't auto a lot, but they're winning with that. And I mean, Taskmaster is phenomenal. The rest of the
Right.
cast is awesome in war, not so great elsewhere. So very disappointing that we didn't get kind of the Asgardians treatment where team is great everywhere. This is another team like the Marauders that are great for war defense and lackluster everywhere else. But Taskmaster is fantastic. I know we said we'd talk about him. I don't have any T4s in him, and he just blows stuff up, so he's great. But Mercenary is another one. My list keeps going. I could talk about this probably for an hour, but Supernatural, Power Armor, and then I even gave Fantastic Four a little love. So Blitz has become phenomenally easier. I've like doubled the number of teams that win at 8.3. And it's a lot easier. So, one of the things we've talked about in the past, we talked about DD3 and not focusing too much on specific characters just for that. Balancing your teams makes so much sense, and it helps out in Blitz and in War a lot. So that was a long list, but that was my operation roster cleanup. And so farming-wise, Phoenix is coming in June. So I have continued my one refresh a day on Hela. And I have started Hand Assassin. I chose her because she was much closer to 300 shards than Nobu, and I'm not doing both of them. That's a waste. And then I'm not quite as far as Frid is. I have I'm ready to unlock Ebony Maw. Karnak made it to 5, and I'll talk more about him in the Festius airing of grievances. But right now I'm kind of struggling with what to do next. A lot of my teams are the 200 level. I really, really need them to be 250 to 260, so they're useful in war, but I have no ABCs, and I want to do some things for Arena, but the mini uniques are just... it's a painful, slow, frustrating, boring farm. I keep wanting the Fox Next to rework the orange raid gear orbs and put those in there. Even a small chance, just give me something, because... these mini uniques are just, it's worse than the original orange uniques. So, ugh. But anyway, I'm kind of stuck. So maybe Fred will have to talk through some of the roster stuff again. And then, of course, Premium Orb Watch, 0 shards of Yo-Yo, 0 shards of Minerva. And that's been now for a month and a week. So I haven't seen them since week 2 of whenever Yo-Yo came out into the orbs. So
I thought you wanted to spend whatever we said, $20,000 to get her ready.
yeah, you got to spend $11,462 and open 6,000 orbs so I could get Yo-Yo to level 2. No. So yeah, the 2%'s not coming, not helping me out. So, but anyway, so let's move on. That was a long list, but it was just. I wanted to cover that just to reiterate that level teams, not characters, as much as you can. So with that, Frid,
that's awesome progress. I'm glad that your blitzing is getting a little bit more interesting, at least, so that you can get some use out of all of these teams.
Yeah, I've already hit my target. I'm at 10 million, and it's Saturday morning, so I'm like, well, I guess I can keep going. But anyway, so let's switch gears. Let's talk through the news.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
And we have exciting news, and it's actually not Marvel Strike Force news, but podcast news, and that's that we have exceeded 3,000 downloads. So who would have thought? Thank you, everybody, for downloading the show, and please keep sending your comments. Again, you can reach us at rngendgame@gmail.com, the Podbean, the Discord public server, and Twitter, and all those ways. Please keep the communication, and we really appreciate it. It is exceeding what we thought we could do here, so keep them coming.
Excellent. And so we haven't talked about legendary events in a while. We talk about whoever's coming, but I do a projection. Sometimes I put it on Reddit, and people make funny comments. But I do it for the Alliance family. I provide a projection of all of the legendary events. So I'm going to cover that, and I'll go into the fall. So everybody knows Ebony Maw is on Monday. Lots of praise about him. People are projecting him to be useful without the Black Order and Thanos within U7. So they're talking about him in DD3. So, he's a legendary character. It's never a bad idea to invest in a legendary character. His event will... Go ahead.
It is the only one so far that requires another legendary, so we'll see what he has in store. Does not forget that.
Oh,
this is
yes.
The twofer.
He should be the legendary of legendaries.
Yep. It's a double.
Exactly.
It's a double whammy. We'll see what he brings to the table.
All right. So his event runs for 7 days, and Foxnex has been doing Mondays forever and 2 weeks in between. But since his is 7 days, they will switch back to Wednesdays. And I'm expecting on June 10th, Phoenix to come through. So people are wondering why I'm talking about Phoenix instead of Star-Lord. Where's Star-Lord? Well, I still say that Star-Lord is going to be announced as a permanent legendary event like Iron Man, or Fox Next needs to go back to the 1.5 duration between events instead of the 2 weeks. So I'm projecting June 10th for Phoenix. After that, June 24th for Invisible Woman, July 8th for Fury, July 22nd for Magneto, August 5th, Black Bolt returns for his 3rd event. So if you haven't started preparing, make sure you start preparing. It's going to take a while to get all of those Asgardians. August 9th is Shuri. And then Ebony Maw's 2nd event will come around in September. That feels like forever away. So apologies to those that aren't going to get to unlock Ebony Maw. You can live vicariously through Fred and I and others.
So I'm looking at this list. For me, the only one that matters, 2. One is Ebony Maw. I'll get 6, so we'll see by September. I need to look to see if I can get to 7. And the other one I don't have is Fury, because I refuse to farm useless minions like Kree to 7. I have him at 6, but I'll need to look for July. Is it worth?
Nah.
With so much farming, it's probably not for me. So it's a pass.
Yep.
But you're looking at 7 Phoenix?
7 Phoenix. Visible Woman,
Black
I'm not going to
Bolt?
get there. It's just Shocker and Green Goblin. I don't have any time for that. Black Bolts I will have to start on shortly. The Sif.
Did you finish him?
No, I just... I can use Phoenix. I forgot. Phoenix would be my 5th one. So Phoenix will help me get Magneto.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I'm not looking forward to having to spend war currency on Sif. That's just depressing. So let's move on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the next piece of news is around the new Black Order member that's currently on the Blitz that Creative mentioned he's at 10 million for, and that is Call Obsidian. I actually looked at the scores and they didn't look too crazy, but everybody, I mean content creators that we listen to, they're pretty high on how much damage he can dish out. And his health pool is like gigantic. And because he's assisting or countering every time they hit Thanos, I mean, it's important to have that high damage. Or Ebony Maw also when he gets attacked. So it'll be a little bit like, the Daredevil, the protecting the
Punisher protecting Daredevil.
Punisher.
Yeah.
Punisher protecting the Daredevil. That's right. Your favorite team, the Defenders. So apparently he can hit really hard. Now, one thing that I noticed, because I think somebody was going through Wolverthor probably going into the details, and I saw the armor. I was like, man, that armor is low. And I remember when I had Thanos, he had a giant health pool, but he would die pretty easily, and it was mostly because no armor, and his is even lower than Thanos. So I know he gets some death proofs, so they must be. I haven't studied this very well, but I don't know how else he gets protected. I guess Ebony's doing stuff to rewind time and just protect defense up. I don't know how it all works, but he needs some help because he will get one shot, I think.
Well, there's also, they give out defense up from, I think it was Ebony Maw gives out defense up. So he's going to have buffs from his team of speed and defense up and other things, plus all these death proofs that he can get. So it'll be interesting to see, but he definitely has that weakness of the armor.
Yeah. So another thing, and this is entering the rumor land that I don't have any information about, but I have heard from various content creators something about July around this game. So they must know something that we don't. There are two things that apparently are happening that supposedly will be make or break for the game. We're talking like red star type of change. And one is that well in advance has been announced, and it's those ISO 8s. And if you don't know what this is, think about them as like start tech that allows you to modify stats, but specific to a character. And it's like another piece of gear or something like that that can let you, let's say, Call, we were just talking about it, where you can add armor to Call Obsidian by using this ISO 8. So you can kind of shore up that weakness. Or you can add damage to, let's say, Punisher, so you can do specialty kind of stuff. So that's one. And apparently, if they don't roll this out properly, it's gonna be kind of game breaking, especially with speed. And hopefully, they won't do that, because that's the one that broke other games of this kind. Then there's another thing they mentioned, and that is a T5 ability. That is
5.
Yeah, like T4 is the orange, and the T5 is like a one above that. And it's supposed to be, again, something very particular and specific for a character. Some kind of specialty. Very scarce details here, but apparently if they miss the mark here, that's going to be it. What is it? The straw that broke the camel's back.
So they're adding red stars for abilities.
Apparently so.
We'll see. Well, I mean, if nothing else, they got a lot of feedback on ISO 8 and basically shelved it. And they've seen other games plummet because of. So hopefully they're taking that into account.
Yep. So we'll see if this all comes to fruition, and we'll keep an eye out for these announcements and see if they're right or not.
Okay. And just the last bit of news, Tuesday night, U.S. time, so if you're international, that could be Wednesday morning, the cost to refresh campaign energy will not go above 50 cores. So if you've been trying to finish off Karnak or other characters like that, you can go nuts and refresh a bunch of energy or farm a bunch of gear. So keep that in mind as you plan out your farming next week. And then, as always, they still haven't heard news, or we haven't received any updates on Blitz. Still no automation of the matches. You showed us a screenshot. Come on now. Blitz is still not a beneficial game mode where most people are autoing or playing, as if they don't want to play. Yo-Yo is still in the premium orbs. And we've seen no official response on our challenge to Fox Next to improve the quote-unquote low quality time. So we'll wait to see. We haven't had a strike time in forever. Apparently cameras don't work in certain people's homes. So not sure what's going on there. But and then, of course, the last one is they announced Ironheart for the, fifth time? I don't know how many times Ironheart's been announced. They gave her character details, which we already have in-game, and no detail about how she's going to unlock. The data mines from a while back had suggested Blitz. Boo. So with that, let's switch gears and let's run the numbers. So quite a few things here for you this week. Symbiote Spider-Man milestones are over, but we do expect them to come back in the second half of June. So a reminder that you're going to need to start saving up that precious gold. So if you're going to be one of those crazy people and wants all 198 shards, you need to complete spending of 1.825 million gold per day. To accomplish that, you're going to need to save up 25 million in gold or gold orb equivalents. Ouch. So you and I, Frid, we're targeting the 1.25 million spin to get the 164 shards so we can get them to 6 yellow stars. We need to have a lowly 9.6 million saved up. And if you are a late game player or maybe even a mid game player and you're just going to target the 825k spin per day to get the 136 shards, you don't have to save anything. You should make more gold in a day than what you are spending. So enjoy that fancy free life of spending gold.
Yeah, and then you said there for Maybe in 2021 he'll be farmable.
Yeah, so
To 7.
Everybody keeps talking about how awesome he is. We have not given him any love. I think we're going to have to talk about fitting him into the mix, particularly since there's some changes in U7. And that's a good segue, and that we came up, or the raid difficulty selector for Ultimus 6 and 7 has been released. If you haven't had the opportunity to dive through it, we're going to do some digging and analysis for you. So first and foremost, we've talked about it. We're at U7. We've been there for a while, but we have looked at U6, and the one-time bonuses are not to be discarded. They are pretty good. So few disclaimers. We're doing difficulty tier 1 right now, and it doesn't feel difficult at all. But again, we're doing U7, and Frid's 10 million red star rocket blows everything away, so he doesn't notice any difference. But we don't know how hard it's going to be on those higher difficulties, but you can get quite a bit of gold even on difficulty tier 1. You get nearly 500,000 on difficulty tier 1 and tier 2 for the one-time rewards. You also would get more T3s than if you were doing U7. So let's maybe back up a little bit because I dove in here. We did some quick analysis of if we just continue to do U7 60% versus going back to U6, would we see benefits for our alliance mates? And the answer is yes. And so the one-time benefits justify going back and spending a couple days and doing these. You're going to get quite a bit more gold. If you do tier 1 through tier 5, you're going to earn a lot of gold. 2.9, so 3 million gold. You're going to get an extra 500 ability T3s, the little purple diamond-y thing. You are going to give up some things. So you're going to give up about 27 to 30 T4s. You're going to give up a few raid credits. Surprisingly, not much from the actual raid credits. This is the stuff you use in the raid store. The other big hit is the raid points. You're going to lose quite a few raid points, around 50,000 on average for doing U6 instead of U7, and that would add up to about 250,000 points you would lose. So you would be lower that particular season. And then the last area is the purple gear frags or the purple gear orgs. You will get about 40,000 more if you did U6 difficulty 1 through 5 for those one-time benefits. We didn't bother with the blue gear because we don't care about blue gear.
And you lose out on the orange, right?
Yes, that's fair. Yeah, right. You would lose out on the orange gear as well. I don't care about that one either because I got 400 of those orbs, but it's a very fair point. A lot of people still need a lot of those orange mats. So short answer is we're going to go back and do difficulty tier 1 and 2 this weekend. We can report back next week of how easy or hard. I'm assuming it's going to be easy it was. But you can get, a good million in gold just by doing those two events, tier 1 and tier 2. A couple quick disclaimers that I want to cover. So I mentioned we don't really know how hard it's going to be on tier 3, 4, 5. So just be aware, tier 5 is 100% more health, 200% more damage, more armor, more focus, more resistance. So, that could get maybe a little bit trickier. So if you've got the BKT RAM plugging away of rocket just blowing everything up, then maybe it's not a big deal.
Well, I mean, we could try U17, see what happens too. Like that's another option.
Fair point. So yeah. And on that note, we have found that there are bugs. So there's a specific defect that we've found that will actually prevent you from hitting U6 100%. Repeat that again. There is a specific bug of using Black Bolt and killing Groot that bugs out the node, and you will not hit 100%. So I've used Black Bolt to kill Daredevil, Wolverine, and others, but I've seen it specifically with Groot. So be careful about using Black Bolt in U6. And then I would just say as a general statement, the Fix MSF movement talked about Hela. She has bugs as well. I saw them in beta in some of the later nodes, particularly on older phones, that it'll cause the raid to crash. So I'd be a little careful about Black Bolt and a little careful about Hela for the late game players that are going back to U6. So that was a lot of detail, but ultimately you can get a lot of gold, you can get a lot of ability T3s, and some more purple gear.
Yeah, those are very good safety tips there for people, so they don't run into what happened to us already.
Which is amazing to me because it is now the end of May, and Black Bolt came out with defects in January. 5 months later, and they still haven't fixed some of these things. That's crazy.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to review a couple of these offers that came with the core event. Hopefully you found the cores a generous thing, and I already completed them all because I've been blitzing like crazy, and that was a welcome thing. Some people have conspiracies about what the motivation is, and maybe they're testing moving to core offers as opposed to money offers. So I decided to look at some of the ones they previewed here. So I'll start with the one that I found somewhat useful. It's situational, and that's 175 cores for 250 energy, campaign energy, and 150 blitz charges. This has been repeating every day, so it refreshes. You can buy it once a day. And the good thing about these blitz charges is that because it's an offer, it allows you to blow above the cap. You could get to 500, and then if you do the challenges, you don't earn any more. They become gold. These actually you can go above. So if you're blitzing for somebody like Call Obsidian, this is a no-brainer. You get the charges. The energy is a little more expensive than 50 cores, but if you're getting to the 100 core refresh, this is definitely a no-brainer. And with Karnak and all this stuff, this is a pretty good offer right now on Call Obsidian. Now, there were some very flashy and expensive offers that I want to cover quickly. And one was the Elite 4-star Orb offer. For 2,250 cores, you would get an Elite 4 Orb and 10 Silver Promotion credits, and then some random orbs, one of each. To a late to endgame player, I find this to be a very terrible offer because it's very likely that because you're not buying anything specific, you're buying an orb, it'll be at 4 or 5 duplicate. And the 10 promotion credits are good for what? Creative 10 3-star maybe?
Yes, 3-star.
Which it's not that useful. So unless you don't have a lot, I mean, it's still 2,250 cores. There's a better use for that. Another very expensive one is the All Father offer. 100 Thanos shards and 100,000 gold for 3,000 cores. And for a second, I thought about this because I needed about 100 to get to 7-star Thanos. But then I was like, no, you're crazy. You can just farm him and it's way better. I think the only reason for this is if you don't have a full Black Horde or you haven't unlocked him, maybe you want to get him right away, but it's so expensive. I think you're better off farming it, unless you're a very early player and have some money laying around. And then finally, there was a superior unique gear draft, which was 1,000 for 10 pieces of those mini uniques that Creative was lamenting about earlier. And I thought about it because I needed a few of the mutant ones to finish off Colossus or whatever. And then I saw, I think it was OMG, buy it and get all skill and nothing useful. So I came to my senses and decided this is a terrible offer. You're better off refreshing the store or using the course for some other reason. So nothing too exciting here. Creative, you saw one that caught your eye.
Yeah, just on the Thanos one, I keep going back and forth if I would recommend that to a new player. Ultimately, for them, U6 is the pinnacle and Thanos is part of the BKT team. And so but if they were basically given for free 5,000 cores and you can unlock Thanos, I debate. So I don't know. That one, to me, for a newer player, I could be worth it because they're not getting to Thanos anytime soon to unlock him, and there's not going to be any other means like the raids that we had and other things. So that one I keep going back and forth on.
And we literally got 2,000 for just logging on. You didn't even have to do anything. So there's some value there, definitely.
Yeah. So for a newer player, I could see that one being beneficial long term. The one that I saw that I would definitely recommend people get, and people may roll their eyes here, was the Taskmaster Red Star Draft. And so it was 750 cores, and you could get a 2, 3, or 4-star Taskmaster. So one, I've talked about, the character is very strong and very good. His supporting cast stinks. But so some people are gonna go spend 650 cores for his orb that we had, and
675, yeah.
675. Sorry, there we go. Yeah. And that's going to get you, or at least for me, we've had people get the 100 and whatever it was, ridiculous amount of shards. But for me, it's 6 shards. So is 6 shards as good as even 2 red stars? The caveats. This is if you don't have good red stars on them. We both have 5. A lot of people got 2 or nothing. And so in that scenario, 750 for a good character, particularly good war defensive guy, I would say is okay.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. So yeah, I skipped it because I already had him, and the fact that it's 2, 3, 4, you don't know the odds is a little concerning, yes. But it's okay. The
unpublished odds. So yes, as a general statement, the other offers can be summed up of do not buy RNG, plain and simple. Plain and simple. So on the topic of red stars, we actually forgot to cover Ebony Maw. We've not seen him in the red star orbs yet.
Oh, that's right. I did hear. Did you hear about this? There was a mystery maintenance in the middle of the night last week. And somebody apparently pulled a 7 red star Ebony Maw somehow. And that's why they had to do this. That's what I've heard. And apparently there's screenshots. But anyway, that's
interesting.
All. That's what I've heard.
So I'm welcoming the delay to have him in the orbs because I used everything on Cole Obsidian and got him decent. So, but we still haven't seen his orbs. And at this point, typically it's a week in advance. But this goes back to last week where we talked about 3 characters all unlocking at the same time. This is why things get screwed up, Fox Next, and why you space things out. So anyway, with that, in that tone, we should probably then switch over to Festivus, the airing of grievances.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
And so one thing that we've had on our list forever, I think we briefly mentioned it in a previous episode, is farming characters from one campaign node. Good grief. This is taking so long. So I projected months back that when Colossus came into the Heroes chapter of the campaign, that it would take me 3 months or something. Well, I never made it because we keep getting all these distractions of having to go farm things up. So it's just taking forever. For Karnak, I have him at 5 stars. It's going to take me 80 days to get him to 6 yellow stars. So yes, I'll make it in time for the next event, but good God, I'm doing that every day for 80 days.
Yep.
So
it's a pain.
You've actually done it all the way to 7. I give up at 6. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so painful. So
yeah,
anyway.
It certainly is. 300 shards, getting 2 a day. It just takes over. I mean, that's 4 or 5 months. Yep.
Whale harder, I guess.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's switch gears and talk about alliance management.
Yep, so we have mentioned the work we've been doing to try to use the Alliance Manager, given the awesome work that the folks at the Zara tool or the MSFGG, the toolbar that sucks into the spreadsheets and sucks in the screenshots and creates a spreadsheet with the data. And we've been trying to integrate it into the roster manager and the Alliance Manager. And obviously there is a high interest from the alliance managers like myself to get this information so that we can plan. I mean, we're looking at lanes and looking at war and who should work on what, and we can give better advice. But in terms of rolling this out, it's a pretty challenging process because this all like open source projects that they have several people working on it. So it can be challenging to create a user guide or something that is easily digestible for people to do this. So you're asking 24 peoples with varying degrees of technical prowess and interest on using all of these tools like Discord bots and Google Sheets and this and that. And then you have different people working on other versions of this on top of each other. And, the roster organizer is great, but when it gets updated, it doesn't take into account any customizations that we've made. So that becomes a maintenance nightmare. Anyway, we have some challenges on how we roll this out the best way. We try to contact the guys from Zera Tools to see if we could integrate our stuff, but we didn't get anywhere there. So there's a lot of work here. What we may end up doing is having folks do the part where they upload the screenshots and just taking it from there. I think we have an idea that we could try to simplify all of this, and that makes it the least painful for the Alliance. We'll keep working on this, and if we come up with something streamlined, we'll report back on our progress. But it's very exciting, but it's not user-friendly yet. You know what would be user-friendly, Creative?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe an API where we could just dump the data out directly from the game. I don't know.
And nobody needs to go through all of these hoops to try to get this done.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So Zera Tools, the reason he isn't moving forward is he has some sort of program that you can install that does similar stuff of getting your roster from the screen and dumping it into data. And then MFF Tools has a better bot out there, and then they've done some integration with MFGG. So there's a lot of disparate parts that are happening. It's all very, very exciting. We love it. We're using it all the time. But to make it easier for the masses, would love to see Fox next step up. I did post a while back saying it's time for at least an inventory screen or API, and Cerebro said he was looking at that. So we'll see, but we'll provide something. If nothing else, we can provide our I do want to share your farming estimator because that thing's super cool, but we'll roll something out to the audience in a few weeks. Okay, with that, we're running a little long, but I want to go ahead and cover this topic because I think it's fun, and it's underneath our Alliance War Tactics. We have another topic from our War Captain Vrome, and this one he's calling the one counter paradox for Alliance War. So first, a little statistical gem. In a group of 23 random people, there is a 50% chance that two people will have the same birthday. I have a family member who's a statistician, very smart for math and all that, and he told me this, and I just couldn't understand it, and finally he broke it down and said it's not really a 350 day chance. It's really a 1 out of 12 month and then a 1 out of the 31 days, and that decreases the odds significantly. So as I tell this story, just keep in mind that with 23 random people, or very close to the Alliance number of 24 people, you have a 50-50 chance. And so what we've seen in Alliance War is yet another war defensive team of the mercenaries has come out, and there's a clear counter, or supposedly there's a clear counter, which is supernaturals. We're still doing some testing. We're still going to evaluate other content creators. But whatever that one clear counter is for any of the teams, that one team gets the job done pretty easily. However, you can use other teams, but you have to really punch down, and or that team is like X-Men, you're using them for other things. And so what we find is very early in the war, whatever that clear counter team is available, people are using it, you're clearing through these meta teams fairly easily. However, in the second half of the war, whatever that clear counter team has been used up or isn't the right level, or people just get impatient and want to progress through rooms and they use the team to clear other stuff. So if we apply the reverse of the birthday math, that 50% chance of getting it is now in reverse, that the 50% odds work in favor for the defense. And that 50% of the time, you're not going to have the counter anymore. They're going to be used already. They're going to be not the right level. And so you're going to start seeing a significantly higher amount of defensive victories from those war meta teams. So the lesson of the one counter paradox is make sure that your team or your alliance has all of the war defensive meta teams checked in to their defense. Even if they aren't that high, 100K, 150, whatever, they're still going to require a stronger team to take them out. And later in the war, your opponent is going to struggle to get through all of them. And so we have, I don't want to call it decreed, but we've asked all of our alliance members to have Hydra and mercenaries up to 150K. Right now, they are the ones that people struggle with the most and don't have clear counters as much. And so we've seen that benefit now in our last few wars of having those. And in reverse of that, we were struggling mightily with the Asgardians. Everybody has Asgardians now. You need them for Black Bolt. They're a great war team, a great blitz team, etc. And so we were really struggling to get through 24 Asgardian teams. So to counter this, one counter paradox, we're taking more teams into offense. And so we're specifically pulling out Aimtron. And so that's Ultron plus Scientist Supreme, Graviton, Monstrosity, and whoever else you have. I've got Researcher, but you probably should use Assaulter, and putting those on offense. And that way we have a plethora of these war offensive meta teams to take out whatever we run across. So Aimtron, X-Men, Supernaturals, high power armor, Fantastic Four. That gives us a greater chance of getting through all of these war defensive meta. So Fred, that was a little long winded, but I think it was really a cool way of framing it up. Any things I may have missed? Any other pearls?
No, I mean, one thing that this is doing that it's kind of related. And I mentioned that last week. It's making war a little cookie cutter because, no creativity. If you say war defense, then that's going to go in. So one thing is you got to make sure that you have those counter teams as well as the defense checked in. And the second thing is the discipline, right? This middle part where you said as war goes on, let's say you have one more thing to clear armory and nobody's around and you're sitting there with, I don't know, Fantastic Four or something big like that. And you're like, I just want to get it over with because time is of the essence with some of these rooms to cripple their offense. That's where then you burn up like an X-Men or something just to get through some random team, and then you won't have it for the counter. And that's what ends up happening. So how can you make this more disciplined? I mean, it's hard, right? It's 24 people, all different time zones, all different powers. It's very hard to do. I would be curious how these full clear alliances do it. I'm sure they're pretty militaristic about how they attack, and it's like very strict. But we're semi-casual, so it is kind of hard. And the other thing is I've seen the defensive victories mount up at the end of the war when they try to get to the bridge and they may have burned some of the important teams. So when they get to my mercenaries or my Asgardians, they may not have anything left. So you start seeing those defensive victories rack up. But I don't know. I mean, it's all about resource management, creating the right teams, and trying to be disciplined and weigh, is it better to burn this on clearing the armory now or saving it for some later unknown or pretty much known war defensive team that you're going to face?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of situational also is the other team charging towards your armory? Are they on a big room? Are they much slower? Are they much faster? So, you have to take all those things into consideration. But I think it's important, though, Foxnex is dictating your defense. They're dictating your offense. And so I hate chasing the meta, but at the same time, getting a team to 150, particularly for us, is not that difficult. So certainly recommend focusing on those solid war teams. Outside of the crappy Marauders, they are viable in other game modes. So with that, we've ended our episode. We hope everybody enjoyed. Next week, if you want to hear anything particular, let us know. We are going to start talking a little about Dark Dimension 3 to my chagrin. Frid will start making his way into the dreaded mode. And so we'll talk a little about that. But there's been some guides that have come out, and we want to continue to talk about not just getting started, but these mats are so rare, focusing on the characters that give you the most bang for the buck. So we'll talk about that. Fred, anything else I may have missed?
No, I think you covered. I'll reiterate how to reach us. Twitter, rngendgame, rngendgame@gmail.com. Podbean, and the public Discord, all which will be part of the show notes. So with that, I hope everybody has a great week. Stay safe. Stay healthy out there.